Can everyone see my? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Hey everyone. Today we are just going to see some basics of trees. It's more of like a tree 101. So I'm just going to share with you all whatever knowledge I have about trees. This is going to be a very casual conversation. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me anytime and ask the questions. If I know the answer, I'll answer right away. But if I don't know, I'll probably do my research and get back to you on Slack after the session. So yeah, with that, we can get started. I introduced myself earlier. So my name is Harini, and as I mentioned before, I work with a company called as Confluent as a software engineer. I've been in the tech industry for about 6 years now, and mostly I work on building big data platforms. So that's my area of interest. I work with distributed systems mainly. Today's agenda is actually pretty simple. We'll start with the introduction. What are trees? Where do we use trees? Why do we need trees? And then we'll look at all the different types of trees. There are so many different types of them. So we'll spend some time looking into that. And then we'll look at different ways to traverse these trees. And then finally, we can take a look at some of the code examples for trees. Before jumping into the introduction about trees, I just like to start with a quote about trees. It says, it reads, not all roots are buried down in the ground, some are at the top of a tree. Though this quote is not applicable to the trees that we see in our real life every day, this quote is 100% applicable to the trees that we are going to see in data structures. So let's see why. So what are trees? Before jumping into what a tree is, I'd like to spend some time talking about the linear data structures that we have been seeing so far in our algorithms series here in Women Who Code. The data structures that we have covered so far are arrays, linked lists, stacks, and queues. These are called linear data structures because the data in these data structures are either arranged linearly or sequentially. Because of this arrangement, all the data that are present in this data structure are at a single level. Because of that, you can also traverse these data structures and in just one traversal. Like for example, if you take the arrays, you can start with 0 and then you can just keep going to the next element. And in one traversal, you can just traverse through the complete array. The same is applicable to lists. We can keep going to we can start from the head and keep going till the end of the list. And we can keep popping elements from the stack and traverse through the complete stack, and similarly with queues as well. So that's the reason why these are called as linear data structure, because of the way how the elements are arranged and how we can just traverse through them linearly. Now, if we take this linear data structure, for example, if we take this linked list and if we just extend it into a hierarchical format where instead of each node pointing to just the adjacent element in the linked list, instead of that, if we take each node and make it point to two children like this and set it up as a hierarchical structure, then we would get trees. As you can see here, these nonlinear data structures are not represented in a single level like the linear data structures, and also we cannot traverse through them linearly. So that's why these are called as nonlinear data structures. And a tree is a very good example of a recursive data structure because what is a tree? A tree is nothing but a collection of nodes where which are connected in a hierarchical fashion, right? So let's say if you take this node has a left and a right subtree, and if you take any other node in the tree, the same properties that are applicable to the root are applicable to each and every node in the tree as well. So that's why these are called as recursive data structures. And also similar to similar to linked list, trees are also dynamic in nature, in the sense we can keep extending the tree to how much ever size we want. There is no limit to the size of to how much a tree, how big a tree can be built. For example, when you define an array, while declaring the array itself, we'll have to specify the size. Is it going to be an array of size 100 or 200 or what? So that's why array is one of the example of fixed data structure, whereas tree is an example of a dynamic data structure, just like linked list. We can just keep adding more and more nodes to them. So just to recap, a tree is nothing but a collection of nodes that are connected to each other in a hierarchical relation. And it's a recursive data structure, and it's also dynamic in nature. So we have seen what a tree is. Let's see what not a tree is. So I mentioned earlier that when there are nodes and when there are multiple nodes connected to each other in a hierarchical fashion, they are called as trees. But then there are certain constraints to trees. For example, a tree should have only only one root. Like there should be all the elements in the tree should be connected to each other in a hierarchical fashion. So if someone asks, is this data structure called a tree? I would say it's not, because as we see here, there are two disjoint sets of nodes connected to each other. So we can call it as two separate trees, one with 5, 2, 1 and 1, and another tree with 4, 3, 1 and 2. But this whole thing here collectively is not a tree because it has two disjoint roots in it. And also, even though here we have a list of like a list of nodes that are hierarchically connected to each other, this particular um, this particular uh, object does not again represent a tree, because in a tree, each node should have only one parent. Whereas if you see here, this particular structure has a node 2 which has two parents. So if we have a structure like this where there are two parents, then again it's not a tree. In data structures, we call these kind of representation as graphs. Again, if in a tree, loops are not allowed. So each node has to point to, like, can have children pointing to some other node, but it cannot point to itself. So that's why this is not a tree as well. A tree should not have any loops in it. And then all the edges that we see in the tree, they should not form a cycle. So this is another constraint in a tree. This particular object here has a loop from 5 to 4 to 1 to 2 and then back to 5. So this is again not a tree. So a data structure where nodes are interlinked with each other in a hierarchical fashion without any disjoint roots, where there are no nodes with two or more parents, where there are no loops and where there are no cycles are called as trees. So if you see any such objects where any of these constraints are present, then they are called as graphs but not trees. So these are some of the constraints when we consider the tree data structure. As I mentioned before, trees are generally used to store hierarchical information, right? So I just want to share some of the examples of trees. Tree is a perfect example. Trees are the Linux file system is actually a perfect example for trees because as I mentioned earlier, it actually inherently has this hierarchical structure to it. For example, starting from slash, under slash, we have different directories like etc, bin, home, etc. And under that, there will be different users and so on and so forth. So that is a perfect example of a tree. If we take the Linux file system, all the directories or folders as we call it, or um, or the internal nodes in a tree. For example, they don't have any, they have children to it. And then the final text files or binary files or whatever we call it, the files and the links that are there in the Linux file system, they are usually the leaf nodes in the tree because they don't have any children. We'll talk about these terminologies in the upcoming slide. But for now, you can remember that all the directories are internal nodes and all the files in the file system are leaf nodes. So I'll talk about what internal nodes and leaf nodes are in the upcoming slide. And another example of tree could be the office related organizational chart. For example, in a company is led by the CEO. Under him, there is a CFO and a CTO, and there are different kinds of people who are working under them. In this chart, if you see, the CTO has like 3 people reporting to him, and that is represented as a tree. And finally, the manager has 2 engineers reporting to him, and they don't have anyone reporting to them. So in this structure as well, all the nodes that are towards the uh, end of the tree, which has no other nodes connected to them, they are called as the leaves. So the office organizational chart is another example of a tree data structure. So now that we have seen what a tree is, I would like to introduce some terminologies that we commonly use when we talk about trees. As I mentioned earlier, tree is nothing but a hierarchical structure where nodes are connected to each other in a hierarchical fashion. In this diagram, all the circular pink structures that are present are called as the nodes. The nodes are the fundamental units of the tree. And the links that are connecting each node, which are these arrows, are called as edges of the tree. So these are nodes and edges. So a tree is nothing but a collection of nodes and edges. The node which is at the topmost part of the tree, the first node, it's called as the root. So ironically, in the tree data structure, root is present at the top of the tree. And all the elements that are present at the lowermost level of the tree, and all the elements that are present in the tree without any children, they are called as leaf nodes. So these leaf nodes are present at the lowermost level. There are some leaf nodes which are on the top, but then they again don't have any children. So if you find any node in a tree without any children, they are called as the leaf nodes. In this tree, I've marked all of them in blue color. And any node that is not a leaf node is called as an internal node. So an internal node is a node which has at least one child connected to it. So in this diagram, all the pink ones are internal nodes and all the blue ones are leaf nodes. So all of the non-leaf nodes are usually the internal nodes. And then there is also this parent-child relationship in a tree. A parent of a node is the immediate predecessor of a node. For example, in this diagram, 0 is the immediate predecessor to 1. So 0 is the parent of 1. If we take 1 and 4 here, 4 is the immediate predecessor. I mean, 1 is the immediate predecessor to 4. So 1 is the parent of 4, and so on and so forth. If you take any node, the one that is right just before it, the immediate predecessor is called its parent. And then the immediate descendant to a node are the children. For example, for 3, the immediate descendants are 7 and 8. So 7 and 8 are 3's children. Similarly, 5 and 6 are 2's children, 3 and 4 are 1's children, and so on and so forth. So that's the parent and children relationship. And there's also this concept of siblings. Any set of nodes which has the same parent, they are called as siblings. So as I have marked here, 3 and 4 are siblings because their parent is 1. 10 and 11 are siblings because their parent is 7. Similarly, 13 and 14 are siblings, 5 and 6 are siblings, and 1 and 2 are siblings. And then there's this concept called as levels in the tree. A level in a tree is defined as like we can say that all a generation of nodes are in the same level. Like if a set of nodes belong to the same generation, they are all said to be in the same level. For example, root is said to be at level 0, and all the children of the root are present at level 1. So 1 and 2 are present at level 1. Now, if you take all the children of 1 and all the children of 2, which are nothing but 3, 4, and 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this generation of nodes, which are like the grandchildren of 0, all these nodes are said to be at level 2. And any children of 3, 4, 5, and 6, all of them are said to be at level 3, and so on. So if you take one generation of nodes, all of them are said to be at the same level. So that's how we define the level of a tree. And then another concept is called as the depth of a node. So the depth of a node is usually defined as the number of edges from root to that particular node. So for example, here, if we take the node 0, its depth is 0 because there are no the number of edges between root and that node itself is 0 because there are no edges between 0 and root. So the root is said to be at depth 0. Whereas if we take this node 2, the depth of this node is 1 because the number of edges between the root and this node is 1. So this node 2 is said to be at depth 1. And for example, if we take this node 9, it's said to be at depth 3 because there are 3 edges between node and this particular node, and between root and this particular node. So if you want to know the depth of any particular node, see how many edges are present between that node and root, and that would give the depth of that node. For 8, it would be again 3 because there is 1, 2, and 3 edges between the root element and 8. So that's how we define the depth of a node. And then next terminology is called the path. The path is nothing but a sequence of nodes and edges between two nodes. For example, if we take 0 and 14, the path from 0 and 14 is nothing but 0, 2, 6, 9, and 14. So that is example of a path in the tree. And another example could be if we take the path between 0 and 12, it is nothing but 0, 1, 3, 8, and 12. So these are called as paths. There are various paths in a tree. If you take any particular node in a tree, there is only one path to it from the root. This is mainly because, as I mentioned earlier, there are no loops, there are no cycles, and there are no nodes with two parents. Because of all these constraints, every node in a tree has a unique path to it from the root. For example, if we take 11, 0, 1, 3, 7, 11 is the only path to reach 11 from the root. So These are called as paths. And then the height of the tree. Yeah, if we take a tree, there are many different paths in the tree, right? So if we take the length of all the paths in the tree and find the longest path in the tree and look at its length, that is nothing but the height of the tree. Like here, if you see this path 0, 2, 6, 9, and 14 has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nodes in it. So let's say the length of this path is 5. Whereas the length of 0, 1, 3, 8, and 12, the length of this path is also 5. If we take all the different paths in this specific tree, the longest length of the path would be 5. So the height of this tree is also 5. So height of the tree is nothing but the length of the longest path in the tree. And then ancestor of a node. If you take any node, all the elements that are present before it, as you backtrack all the way to the root, they are called the ancestors of that particular node. For example, if you take 8, if we backtrack all the way to the root, 3, 1, and 0 are 8's ancestors. So for example, if you take the path from the root to this particular node, it's 0, 1, 3, and 8, as I mentioned here. So if we take any node in the tree, all the elements that are present before it in the path to the root are usually called the ancestors. So take a node, find the path to that node from the root, and all the elements that are present along the path are called its ancestors. And similarly, so those are called as ancestors. And then there's this concept called a subtree. So a tree is composed of many different subtrees. So for example, if you consider this tree is made up of a root and 2 subtrees rooted at 1 and another subtree rooted at 2. So this thing that I marked here with a triangle is nothing but a subtree with 1 as the root and with another subtree, left and right subtree to it. And similarly, like if you take 2 and all its descendants, those are that forms another subtree. And if you just take 5, even that is a subtree with just the root element in it. So here I have highlighted another subtree with 9 as the root, and it just has 2 children to it. So you take any node in the tree data structure, it can be called as a subtree because that itself can be considered as a tree with the root and its own set of descendants. That's why a tree is an example of a recursive data structure. Each and every node is nothing but a subtree which satisfies all the constraints of a tree. So those are that's why they are called as subtrees. And now that we have seen what a tree is and we understood the different terminologies of a tree, let's see the different types of trees that are there. So the first one is nothing but a general tree. So this general tree has no new constraints except the one that we saw earlier, where there should be no loop, no cycles. Each node should have only one parent and all the nodes should be connected and there should not be any disjoint roots. All those constraints are applicable to the general tree as well. And each node in the general tree can have any number of children connected to it. There are no constraints on the number of children that can be connected to a parent node. So that is called as a general tree. And the next one is the binary tree. A binary tree is a tree where each node can only have a maximum of up to 2 children. So that's why it's called as binary tree. And the two children are called as, the one that's on the left side is called as the left child, and the one that's on the right is called as the right child. And this is applicable to, this constraint is applicable to all the nodes that's present in the tree. So they are, such trees are called as binary trees. So each node can have 0, 1, or 2 children at max. And a specialized type of binary tree is called as binary search tree. Since this is again a type of binary tree, here each node again can have only up to a max of 2 children. That constraint still holds true to binary search tree as well. On top of that, there are 2 more constraints in a binary search tree. In a binary search tree, the value of the left child should always be less than or equal to the value of the parent, and the value of the right child should always be greater than or equal to the value of the parent. So such a tree is called as a binary search tree. And this constraint is again applicable to each and every node in the tree because of the recursive properties of the tree. So if you take 3, all the elements to its left should be less than that, and all the elements to its right should be greater than or equal to that. The same property would be applicable to all the nodes in the tree. So these kind of trees are called as binary search trees. And if we saw here, so binary search tree is one special type of binary tree, right? There are still many different types of binary trees. So let's talk about that. Another type of binary tree is called as a full binary tree. A full binary tree is a one where each node in the tree has exactly 0 children or 2 children. For example, here, the root has 2 children. This particular node has 0 children. So if you look at all the nodes in the tree, they either have 2 children attached to them or 0 children attached to them. So such a tree is called as a full binary tree. And then a perfect binary tree is a tree where all of the internal nodes, as I mentioned earlier, internal nodes are nothing but non-leaf nodes. So all of the internal nodes should have 2 children, and all of the leaf nodes should be at the same level. So if a tree satisfies these constraints, they are called as a perfect binary tree. As you see here, like it just looks perfect. There are no gaps, and all the leaves are organized at the same level. So hence the name perfect binary tree. And another type of binary tree is called a complete binary tree. A complete binary tree is a tree where all the levels are completely filled with 2 children, and except the last level. And even in the last level, all the nodes are as left as possible. For example, if you take this full binary tree, here also all the levels are completely full except the last level, but this is still not a complete binary tree because there are some gaps in between. Whereas if you take these 2 nodes and connected to the children of connected to be the children of this node, then all the leaves would be as left as possible. So if a tree is like that, where all the leaves are to be as left as possible and all the other levels are completely filled, then such a tree is called as a complete binary tree. And then and then there's this concept called as a balanced binary tree. As I told earlier, the height of a tree is nothing but if you take all the different paths in a tree and get the length of the longest path, that is the height of the tree. So a tree is called a balanced binary tree when the height of the left subtree and the height of the right subtree differs by at most 1. For example, if you take this tree and if you consider this left subtree, the height of this left subtree is 1, 2, and 3, right? The height of this right subtree is 2. So the difference between the height of the left and the right subtree is 1 in this case. That is why this tree is called as a balanced binary tree. And an example of a tree that is not a balanced binary tree is this one. Here, if you see the height of this left subtree is 3, whereas the height of this right subtree is 0. So the difference between them is 3, which is greater than 1. That's why this is not a balanced binary tree. Another type of tree is called as a degenerate binary tree. A degenerate binary tree is the kind of a tree where each parent has only one node attached to it. So if you see, each and every node has just one other parent child attached to it. So that is why it's called as a degenerate binary tree. So these are some of the basic types of trees. There are a lot of other advanced tree data structures like heaps, AVL trees, B plus trees, etc. They are very complicated. Actually, in the past 6+ years in the tech industry, I've used heap for some of the use cases, but after grad school, I've never really used all of these other trees much. So these are advanced concepts which we don't encounter in our day-to-day work most of the time. Mostly, if you are familiar with all the other basic tree structures that we discussed earlier, and if you know how to code and operate on them, that's more than sufficient. And now let's look at the different types of tree traversals. I'm just going to use the simple tree as an example when we look at the different traversals. So based on the order in which we visit each node in the tree, there are multiple different kinds of tree traversals. The first one that we'll talk about is called the pre-order traversal. So in a pre-order tree traversal, we'll first visit the root, then we'll recursively do a pre-order traversal on the left subtree and then the right subtree. So if we visit the root first and then recursively do a pre-order traversal on the left subtree and then the right subtree, that's called a pre-order traversal. So here in this tree, the pre-order traversal would be like, since we have to visit the root first, it would be 0. So that is here. And then we'll have to do the pre-order traversal of the left subtree, right? So the pre-order traversal of left subtree would be 1. And again, pre-order traversal of left subtree, which is 3. Left subtree is over. Then is the right subtree 4. Now the whole of this left subtree is over. So now we have visited root, we are done with the left subtree, and now let's go to the right subtree. So here 2 followed by left subtree 5 and then the right subtree 6. So the pre-order traversal is root, left, and then right. 0, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, and 6. So this is the pre-order traversal of this tree. Next is the in-order traversal. This is the most commonly used traversal in a tree. So here in in-order traversal, we'll first traverse the left subtree, then we'll visit the root, and then we'll traverse the right subtree. For example, here, if you take this tree, its in-order traversal would be, we'll first have to do an in-order traversal of the left subtree, which is 1, 3, and 4. If we do an in-order traversal of 1, 3, and 4, we'll again have to start with the left subtree first. So the first one is 3. After visiting the left subtree, we'll visit the root, so 1, and then the right subtree 4. So now this whole left subtree is done. Then the root 0. Then we'll do an in-order traversal of the right subtree. The in-order traversal of the right subtree would again start with left 5, then the root 2, then 6. So the complete in-order traversal would be 3, 1, 4, 0, 5 to 6. Left, root, right. Left, root, right. Here again, left, root, right. So this is the in-order traversal. And the next one is called as the post-order traversal. Here we traverse the left subtree, we traverse the right subtree, and finally we visit the root. So that is the post-order traversal. So first we have to visit the left subtree, right? So if we take this left subtree and apply post-order traversal on it, again, it's the left subtree first 3, right subtree next 4, and then the root 1. So that's the first part, 3, 4, and 1. So now that we are done with the left subtree, for post-order, next is the right subtree, right? So next we are coming here. We'll have to apply post-order traversal on the right subtree, which is left, right, and root, which is 5, 6, and 2. That is this part. Now that we are done with the left and right subtree, finally we would be visiting the root, which is 0. So that is the post-order traversal. Left, left, right, 5, 6, 2. This is right. And then finally the root. So these are some of the different kinds of tree traversals based on the order in which we process the root element, the left subtrees, and the right subtrees. And there's also one more traversal. It's called as breadth first search, or we also call it level order traversal. Here we go breadth-wise, like we first visit 0, which is on the topmost level, and then we'll visit all the elements on next level, level 1, which is 1 and 2, and then all the elements on the level 2, which is 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the level order traversal or the breadth first search of this tree would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then the last kind of traversal that I want to talk about is called the depth first search. So here, how this depth first traversal works is we start from the root. We'll keep going down the tree all the way till we reach an end. And once we reach an end, we backtrack and find another path. So that's called as the depth first search. For example, if we start from root here, from 0, we go to 1, and then we go to 3. And then there's nothing, no more nodes to go down further. So we backtrack and then find another path, 4. Then again, there are no nodes to go down further. So we backtrack and find another path, 2, 5, backtrack 6. So 0, 1, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6. That is the depth first traversal of this particular tree. If we just look at the order of the elements as the result of the depth first search, it would be same as the pre-order traversal that we saw in the previous slide, where we visit the root first, followed by the left and the right subtree. So the pre-order traversal as well as depth first search gives the same order of nodes in the tree, just that they have slightly, they have different names to it. So these are the different kinds of tree traversals. Okay, now we saw what a tree is, what are the different types of trees, and what are the different kinds of traversals on the trees, etc. So now let's actually look at a few coding example of trees. As I mentioned earlier, each tree has a basic unit called as nodes, and a collection of nodes that are connected to each other in a hierarchical fashion is called as the tree. So let's define what a node is. A node is nothing but a node can have a value. So here in this particular example, the node has an integer value to it. And then each node has a left and right child. So this is the node of a binary tree. That's why there are just 2 children associated with it, called the left and the right child. So when we instantiate a node, we usually give a value to it. So we assign that value. Since this is just a node, which is not yet attached to a tree, we usually just set the left and the right child as null. And when we add it to the tree, we actually link it with appropriate left and right child. So this is how we usually define a node, with a value and a left pointer pointing to the type node itself, and a right pointer pointing to, again, to the type node itself. And usually when we define the different, like when we define a class for different types of trees, one of the thing that is usually given to us is the root pointer to a tree. In most of the problems, we'll only be given the root pointer to the tree. So if we take a binary tree class, the thing that that is usually defined is the root, and then followed by all the other additional functions in a binary tree. For example, search, adding a node, removing a node, etc. So this is the basic node class. And when we define any type of tree, we usually define the root node of that particular tree data structure in addition to all the other different methods. So this is the basic fundamental class definition of a node in a tree. And then as we saw earlier, there are these different kinds of traversals. I just wanted to show the recursive code to these different kinds of traversals. So the first one is the in-order traversal, where we traverse the left subtree first, then traverse the root, and then the right subtree. So the code is pretty straightforward. We'll first, so this function is called as the in order travel in order, with the root node passed to it as the parameter. So here 0 is passed as a parameter to this in order function. And since in order is left subtree first, then visiting the root, then right subtree first, that is just like converted into code here. We recursively call in order of the left subtree first. That's why we call in order on node.left. And then we are processing the root element here. In this case, we are just printing the value, that's it. And then we are recursively calling an in order traversal on the right subtree. So that's how we visit root left subtree first, then the root, then the right subtree. So this is the code for in order traversal. If we execute this in order traversal on this particular tree, this is the output that we would get, because the left subtree is processed first, then the root, then the right subtree is processed next. Then within the left subtree, which is 1, 3, and 4, the left subtree is processed first, then the root, then the right subtree. And the same applies to this part as well. Next is the pre-order traversal, where the root is processed first. So we just right away print the root's value. And then we recursively process the left subtree, and then we recursively process the right subtree. So this is the recursive implementation of pre-order traversal. And then this is the recursive implementation of post-order traversal, where we first recursively process the left subtree, recursively process the right subtree, and then finally process the root. So this is the, if we run post-order traversal on this particular tree, this would be the output. So these are the code examples for the different types of traversals in a recursive fashion. Then I spoke about level order traversal, right? Where we visit, like where we traverse each level at a time. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I just like to share a code example on how a level order traversal is done in a tree. So level order traversals are usually done using queues. So let's take this example queue here. The way how it works is we'll just take the root and add it to the queue. And starting that point, we'll remove one element from the queue, and we'll add, when we remove one element from the queue, we'll add it to the result set. And we'll add all the children of that element back into the queue. If we keep repeating that until there are no elements in the queue, we will get the level order traversal of the tree. For example, first we are adding 0 to the queue. So 0 is present here. Now starting from this point, we remove one element and add all of its children to the queue. So we are removing 0, add it to the result set, and add the children of 0 back to the queue. So the children of 0 are nothing but 1 and 2. So we add them back to the queue. Now we remove one element from the queue. So we remove 1, add it to the result set, and add all the children of 1 back to the queue, which are nothing but 3 and 4. So I removed 1 and added it to the result set and added 3 and 4 to the queue. In the next step, remove 2, added it to the result set, and added its children 5 and 6 back to the queue. Similarly, removed 3, added it to the result set. It has no children, so I'm not adding anything to the queue. And then similarly, removed 4, removed 5, and removed 6, but did not add anything back to the queue because none of them has any children. So eventually, the result that we get is nothing but the level order traversal, which is nothing but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. So just remember that whenever we need a level order traversal of a tree, Q is the data structure that we can use to get that level order traversal. So here, the concept that I spoke about is converted into a code here. Here I'm defining a queue using a linked list implementation. And as a first step, I'm adding the root element to the queue, which is nothing but 0. And while the queue is not empty, I'm removing one element from the queue, adding it to the result set here. So here I'm just printing it. And then adding the left and right children of that element back into the queue. And we have to keep doing it until there are no more elements present in the queue. So this is an example of a level order traversal of a tree. And then I'd like to share another example on how to calculate the height of a tree. So as I mentioned earlier, the height of a tree is nothing but the length of the longest path in the tree. For example, here it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the longest path, as you can see. So the height of this particular tree is 5. Now let's see how to programmatically calculate this. The height of a tree is nothing but if you take the height of the left subtree and the height of the right subtree, take the maximum value of it and add 1 to it. That is nothing but the height of a particular tree, right? For example, if you take this tree with root 5, the height of this particular subtree is nothing but 2. The height of this particular subtree is nothing but 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you take the maximum value of those and add 1 to it, that would be the height of the tree, right? Because the height of this tree is 4. So the height of the root is nothing but 1 more than the height of this particular subtree. So we are just converting that logic into code here. So if you see here, if you are given a root, like if you are given a tree with the root node specified as root, if the root itself is null, then there is nothing, there are no elements in the tree. In that case, the height of the tree is 0. Whereas if the root is not null, then the height of the tree is nothing but recursively calculate the height of the left subtree, recursively calculate the height of the right subtree, take the maximum value of it and add 1 to it and return it. Then that would be the height of this particular tree. So if you recursively apply this program on this particular tree, we'll call height of root node 5, which is nothing but height of this left subtree rooted with 2, height of this right subtree rooted with 4, take the maximum of it and add 1 to it, and that would be the height of the tree. So if you recursively keep applying the same logic, if you take any of the leaf node, the height of all the leaf nodes is 1 because the height of the left subtree of a leaf node is 0. The height of the right subtree of a leaf node is 0 because it's all null. There is nothing, like there are no nodes present to calculate any height. The maximum of that is again 0. So add 1 to it. The height of a leaf node is 1. So this is 1. The height of this node is 1. This node is 1. And this node is 1. So that's what I've marked there. If you go one level above, the height of this particular node is nothing but max of the height of left and right subtree plus 1, which is 2. Similarly, here the height of this tree is max of left and right plus 1, which is 2. For this tree, it would be max of left and right, which is 0. So 0, 2, max is 2 plus 1, which is 3. The height of this particular tree is max of 3, 1, which is 3, and add 1 to it, which is 4. Now we recursively calculated the height of all of this, right? So when we come to the root, the height of the root is max of 2, 4, which is 4, plus 1, and return, that would be the height of the tree, which is 5. So to summarize it, always recursively calculate the height of the left and right subtree, find the maximum value of it, and then add 1 to it. That would be the height of the tree. And if a tree has no root element, like if the root itself is null, when we recursively keep going down the tree, if the root itself is null, then the height is 0 because there's actually no node present in the tree. So that's how we define the height of a tree. Now that we have seen some code samples as well, I'd like to open the session up for questions. And before we do that, I'd just like to end with a quote. So the smart data structures and dumb code works a lot better than the other way around. So it's very, very important to select the most efficient data structure for any given problem in hand, because a same problem can be solved efficiently using one data structure and like in an order of n fashion, and it can be solved using exponential or n square time complexity using a data structure that is not suitable for it. So choosing a smart and efficient data structure that is relevant to a problem is very, very crucial. And that is why data structures and algorithms are actually given a lot of importance in any tech interview rounds. So that is why it is very important to be aware of all the different kinds of data structures, and not just being aware of the data structures, but we should also practice and figure out what is an efficient data structure to use for a given problem in hand. And that's it. If you have any questions, not just with respect to trees, with respect to any kind of data structures or interview preparation or anything, you can reach out to me on Women Who Code Slack space. My name is Harini Rajendran, and this is my LinkedIn handle. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can you feel free to do so. So I'll be posting this slide in our Women Who Code GitHub repository. So we'll share the link to it in our Slack space. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer that.
I have a question.
Just 1 second. Jing, usually we would stop recording at this point because if people don't want to get recorded.
Should I stop recording or pause recording?
You can stop recording actually.